like the classic gag strip. And I think he's the best gag writer in webcomics. But and then there's this other one that I always plug. No one else knows this. No one else likes this, but it's like my favorite webcomic is. It's called Buttercup Festival, and it's just this really sort of whimsical comic about this this poorly scrawled sort of Grim Reaper looking character who has this weird sort of idealism about everything, and at the same time this weird sadism, and they go. And it's really hard to describe, but he's like, I have an idea, I want to do this experiment, and he'll do things. And some of them are very, very strange things. I don't know, narrating comics seems like it's ultimately kind of futile, but there was a part where this, there was one comic that was just about, he discovered that a clutch of motherless ducklings had imprinted on him. And he's like, wow, this is interesting. And so he walks like through the kitchen and up across the countertop. So they walk across the frying pan, and then he turns it on, and then there's this last frame, and the last frame shows him there with some eggs and eating and pausing, and then there's like a couple of panels as he does other stuff, and then he stops and he's like, maybe that was wrong. And I don't know. But it's this great comic, and there are a couple of XKCDs that are sort of direct references to that or influences from that. It's hard to read his handwriting in the older comics. It's very scrawled, and that's. I made a script to download them all and then upsample them to like double size so I could see them on my laptop and get a better ability to read his handwriting. And read through the archive that way. We try to make that easier. We have a JSON interface to the comics that is documented somewhere that so that people can automatically download them and do whatever they want with them. We encourage that kind of thing. Any questions over here? Oh, so that's me and Derek who fled. He tries to avoid any kind of public appearance or anyone knowing that he exists. But he's the XKCD sysadmin and sort of business. He's fallen into the job of business person since, I don't know, I guess I wasn't very good at that. And he was like, you should really be selling something. Don't you think we should have some more merchandise, et cetera. And so, oh yeah, there's a store. I should deal with that. So he ended up he's been doing a lot of that stuff and doing a really good job of it, actually. But he started off as just the guy who I called up because I knew he had a server. And so when XKCD started off, it was hosted on a cable modem, and this is actually true, this cable modem was at my parents' house, and it was an old machine, I think a Pentium 1, that you see on my mom's computer, and then she got a new one, and so I had this Pentium 1, and this is in 2006, it's not an ancient time. So I had this Pentium 1 in 2006 sitting under the table in the kitchen, plugged in. My parents, just knew that I was using it for something. And the dog slept next to it, and I was going to school, 70 miles away. And that was hosting XKCD. And at first it was just, I put these up, but I wasn't, intending to share these comics with anyone so much. I was scanning them in and figured I might as well put them up so I could send them to a friend or two. But then one of the friends sent it to another friend or something, and it circulated. One of them circulated a little bit. It's actually the comic that starts the book, the one about being trapped in a universe factory, the pi equals comic. And he was like, oh, and I got an IM from someone one afternoon that was, hey, I really liked your comics. I sent one of them to my friend, and he really loved it, and he wants to put it up on his website. His name's Corey Doctorow. He wrote this blog. Is that okay? He was going to put it up in a couple hours. And his blog was Boing Boing, which is, it has 200,000 readers. And my website is hosted on a server sitting next to the dog in my family's house. Oh my God. With just a power cable and a network cable plugged into it, but in a hard, I think it was probably like 100 meg hard drive, something ridiculous, and some random Linux distribution that I did not know how to use. So I quickly call up Derek, who I knew had something at his college. He ran servers. He did things like that. I was a novice, and I knew. And I liked to mess around with Linux, but I also knew that I was not a qualified sysadmin to build a server that can scale and do things like that. So I called him up and said, I have this thing, I need you to host it. And this is where there's a kind of nerd who has an attitude about things like that that's sort of like, I'm sure that you're going to explain what this is about later, but right now I'm assuming it's something important, and we'll make it. Let's see if we can make that happen. And I get the sense, like with Derek, that we have our arguments and stuff, but I get the sense that I could call him up and say, like, listen, I need a helicopter to land at this coordinate at this time. And I don't know that he'd be able to do it, but he would try with no questions asked. And so I said, I need something that will handle this much hosting in this much time. And he said, okay, what are the files? Let's get, what's the domain? You need to change the DNS over, and we got that set up. And we got a burst of traffic from Boing Boing, and the page was not really set up for easy browsing. And it turns out, this was really sad. I tried to forget this, but at the time, there was this huge crowd coming in, and I was like, all right, I'll spend all afternoon. It used to be just a page of HTML links, each one to an image file. It was a comic. And I was like, I spent this whole time making it so that you could click on each one, but then you could go back to the main browsing page, and if you were shown this main browsing page when you came in, you didn't have to look for the drawings link, And I had gotten this all set up with these new readers. So, my first set of readers would be able to see it, and then they were all visiting. We got all this traffic, and then the next day I saw that the page that I put together was not actually live, and everyone had just seen the old version.
Oh.
But they did get to see the comics, and I got this taste of like, wow, people are reading this. This is so much fun. I should draw more of them. And so I was scanning more of my comics, and then started drawing more specifically for the site. And at that point, I got a call from Derek, which said, and about the hosting. And he said, I want to talk about the hosting. And I said, oh, so was the bandwidth okay? Was that all right? And he said, oh no, it was fine. You're not using the bandwidth. I set up all this bandwidth for you, and I'm very disappointed that you are not taking it up. I thought you said there was a hosting challenge here. And he said, I'm gonna take down your hosting if you don't actually show that you're going to be using it. And I said, all right, hold on, I'm going to draw some more comics here. We'll see. I'm going to make this site easier to navigate. I set it up like an actual webcomic. And then he ended up actually coding the system so that the way it works is we just have a text file with every comic title, the comic file name, the comic title, which are almost always the same, but there can be a little bit of differences there. Commas and stuff might be in the title, but not in the file name. And then title text, and then optionally if the comic links to something, there are like two of them to do that. And if there's special news to go on the top of the site, those are all in this file. And the pages are just generated statically from that. If anyone here wants to start a webcomic, that's how we do it. But so he said, you're not using up the bandwidth enough. And so I said, okay, well, there are a few dozen, from the Boing Boing, that was like a few thousand people came through the site at that point. And then it trickled back off, and it was like, we had a few dozen people checking it out each day. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna go get more readers somehow. And I didn't really feel like I didn't want to advertise or anything. But what I did is I realized I could get readers by trolling Slashdot. And I did this. I actually put a link to comic in my signature, and it said XKCD.com, a webcomic of romance, sarcasm, math, and language. And what I found is I realized that I had been sort of frustrated with the comment system and its flaws, but then I realized that when I wanted to get a comment at the top, I could take advantage of these flaws. One of them being that so many people sort, and this is a problem with many current systems, including, I don't think Alexis is here yet, including Reddit, Alexis' site. I've been arguing with them to try to get a better system implemented that does better statistical analysis of the voting, to put comments at the top if they're getting a better rate of upvote, even if they haven't been there all that long. So Slashdot has that weakness, like many sites, that the things that get in there